rights. The purpose of GFCM is to develop and manage case plans with you that facilitate forming a positive identity with which you offending is no longer compatible. That's what Jonathan's going to be speaking with us about today, and his innovative seminal approach. I met Jonathan a bunch of years ago. It was 26. I oversaw a national initiative originating out of OJJDP, known as, I know I'm taking too much time on this one, the Comprehensive Strategy for Serious, Violent, and Chronic Juvenile Offenders. Jonathan, we partnered successfully to apply a medical model for prevention and early intervention of youth delinquency patterns in 52 jurisdictions across the United States. We achieved considerable success in that work in large part due to Jonathan's expert consultation in those jurisdictions. He was obviously passionate, you'll see that. He's dedicated, he was brilliant then, he's brilliant now. And even more so because of his continued accrual of experience. I'm privileged to call him friend and colleague and ask you to join me in welcoming Jonathan Cloud as our featured speaker this afternoon.
Great, good afternoon. Thank you, John. That was great. That was a walk down memory lane. All the work we've done for so long. I am really delighted to be here with you all. Wasn't this panel thing totally awesome? Yeah. I mean, you guys could have just kept going. It's not how we're doing it. You all just keep going. By the way, where's my psych major? Is that you, Chloe? I'm a psych major. I'm doing okay. I don't have a PhD. Okay, sorry. Not that you shouldn't get your PhD, but I'm just saying, you're fine. John will pay for it, right? Right. I'm going to be playing off of a number of points you all made. Your research for what you have is terrific, and the work that the thing you mentioned about the strengths in the youth, they all talked about the strengths instead of what was wrong with them. All of you hit some major highlights. I'm going to be touching on some of that as we zero in on this developmental perspective. In my next 15 to 20 minutes with you, I just want to strike a very simple and profound note. And that note is this: we need this Innovation Center for Youth Justice. This introduction that you've heard, the kind of work they're doing, the exposure that they're getting early on, is major. Because we are out there, when I say we, myself, John, Jody, we're out there on the front lines, and change is awesome and it's exciting when you see it happening, but getting there can be an incredible battle. And have a center dedicated to innovation. And to innovate means to introduce something new or to make changes in something that's already established. Introduce something new, changes in something that's already in place. Because I want to underscore the need for this center by zeroing in on something we already have in place. You heard about this, probation officers out there doing some incredible work with a powerful tool. Risk assessment instruments that are validated. I was able to be a part of some of that and pushing those tools out there and how invaluable they are. I'll never forget the experience I had in a jurisdiction when I met with a chief probation officer. Now I can say 26, thank you, John, 26 years ago. I was trying to remember how long ago the office was, so thank you very much for reminding me of that. And we sat down with the chief probation officer way back then, before things like risk factors. Sounds familiar? Criminogenic needs, sounds familiar? See, you guys are getting them ready already, right? Before all that was familiar. And we talked to him about why this tool is going to be invaluable and why this is going to be useful and why structured decision-making is important rather than just kind of doing it by the seat of your pants. And I'll never forget what this chief probation officer said to us. He goes, well, we don't need it. Okay. And I said, so why? Because we're doing just fine. So I thought I'd challenge him a little bit. Sometimes as consultants, people do that, but I push him a little bit. I said, so you are telling me that you're able to make solid decisions, reliable decisions, just on hunches? He goes, look, man, I've been in this stuff a long time. All I gotta do is look at them. I said, what? Yeah, let's look at them. Then I pushed a little bit further. I said, well, what do you look for? I don't know, man, I just look. That's just kind of where he left it. To think how far we've come from that to where we are at now. Now, if you walk to a jurisdiction and they're not thinking about structured decision-making and utilizing instruments, they know that they're not up to speed. We've come a long way. So I want to build on that and say that we still have a tension point that this center can help us with. And it goes back to John's opening presentation around that whole developmental approach. Because here's the challenge. The challenge is, and the tension point is this. And I'll give you notice, this is a great example of what the tension point is. I was in a jurisdiction recently, and John and Jody would know where I was, and we'll keep this between the three of us, right? I was in there recently, and I started getting pushback on developmental approach, growth focus, identity change, a young person see who they can become, have as their incentive to change, not running away from their past, but seizing their yes. Let that be the driver. Instead of avoidance motivation, which increases stress, let's use approach motivation, which reduces stress and increases motivation. Well, I was on a roll. I'm just laying it out there. And I started getting the pushback. And so I said, okay, I'm sensing something here, and he gives his reason why it wouldn't work. I love that. It's fine. It's okay. That's what we're there for. Because the research is on our side. It's here. He gives his point, I fire back with the research. Knock that one down. What's next? Give his point, fire back, knock that one down. Give it up, fire back, knock that one down. After I finished that, he just sat back and he goes, this is what was really underlying it all, everybody. He just goes, well, I am not a social worker. Bottom line. The tension between being a law enforcer or a social worker. They're still trying to sort it out. Even in jurisdictions that are getting the developmental approach, you know how they're coming at it? I do my real probation work, and then I got to sprinkle in a little bit of developmental stuff. So I better do some nice stuff and talk to them and make a good referral. So I did my developmental piece. It is not integrated. That's our challenge, getting the integration. It is not either or, it's both. And they can be seamlessly woven together. So I want to share with you what that seamlessness looks like with a simple example. Then I'm going to step back and zero in on some research that gives us an understanding of really what's at stake here and what's an open door for the center. Because I heard y'all do research and stuff, and all that kind of from these presentations, and I'm going to suggest a few pieces of research maybe along the way, not that we'll run out and do it, but there's a few things to look at. And then I'll close with jurisdiction that John and Julie and I have been working with on his 31 that he listed there in Minneapolis, Hennepin County, and show you the kind of work that can be achieved in a year and a half when you have a great probation review process that gives you the foundation of first understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what works. It's a perfect springboard for then figuring out what we need to enhance and what we need to change. And that was a piece that John and Julie brought me into. So the probation review process, I know there's a bigger name for it, probation thing. Yeah, probation, youth justice system review. I know you changed stuff for me, Jim. Probation system review process, right? How that lays this foundation and opened the door for me to come in and talk about this, and it was received. I want to give you a few highlights on what they're doing and what might be some great implementation and research, like what you do in Clark County that you all can look at. So those three things. What it looks like in my real life experience, 3 research items you might want to think about, and what it looks like in Minneapolis. And then we'll be done. So you guys ready? I want to show you how this thing looks in real life. And I just had to use my own life because I got to give this outreach worker, Big Mike is what we called it. Big Mike, outreach worker. And see, this is 40, this is bad, man. It's 40 years ago, 16 years old. And I like sharing it because what we're talking about isn't earth-shattering and earth-breaking. He did both with me and a few friends of mine. And then I'll get into the science that has emerged since then that opens the door for a massive amount of research potentially for the center. And so I won't get into what our offenses were. By the way, if I would have asked you to raise your hand, how many of you did stuff like that was like delinquent and you just didn't get caught? I know, but thank you. I didn't ask you to raise your hand, but your hand went away in the back further. And you are the chancellor or the what? What was your position? Oh, she was there. Okay. Well, but still, your hand went up. Great. All right. I was pinning on the chancellor, right? But thank you for being so honest. If we just didn't get caught, right? Mild delinquency, typically it doesn't progress to serious stuff. Our violations were property stuff, trespassing and loitering, a couple other things that they were doing. I mean, they were doing that other stuff. Right? I was a good guy in all of this charge. They were doing this right. Some mom showed up and grabbed her daughter and drug her out of there. And to this day, I'm still trying to figure out, feel like the White House, who leaked it, man? Who leaked it? My mom just rolled up and grabbed her daughter and put her in the car. Get out of here, right? But that didn't happen with us. Make a long story short, we were in that third circle of that little sequence of decision points, that whole diversion piece. Beautiful piece of work. Because when he got with us, he did both. He explained to us and had to hold us accountable. Today would be do a risk assessment, probably up front. It might be the short version of the ICYJ, right? It might be the pre-screen, yeah. Might be that, right? Let's get a good read and hold us accountable. The idea being, don't do this again. Let's figure out what are the immediate factors that drove this kind of behavior. Let's zero in on those, ameliorate them to stop the behavior. As John put in my introduction, cessation of the behavior. Did that successfully. Guess what? We didn't do it again. And it probably helped that my dad found out about it too. That probably like got in there a little bit as well, right? It's important stuff. But Mike didn't stop there. Mike seamlessly, and to this day, I don't know how he did it. Didn't even feel like an intervention. I was in college before I realized that it wasn't an intervention. I was actually sitting in a college class, right? And I was going through my stuff. I remember sitting back in my chair going, oh my gosh, I got intervention upon. That was an intervention. He planned this whole thing, man. It didn't feel like it was planned. It felt natural because he was so present. One of you talked about how he talked to some of the youth, and it's just natural. It's a flow. It's integrated. He didn't need to flip a switch. He just gradually went to wanting to know what we enjoy, what we like doing, and what our strengths were. And you know what I was big time into? Me and some guys we were with, we loved theater and drama. And that's the first thing I knew to say. First of all, I want to get out of trouble. What do you like? Drama. What do you want to do? Theater. Anything that's positive, right? But he knew exactly where it was going because we had done a little bit of stuff in a school play. We weren't like major actors. We just did some school stuff, right? He jumped on it. That was a strength. He wanted anything he could find to work with. And he goes, what do you want to be? You want to be an actor one day? I'm like, yeah, sounds good. In the growth focused case management framework, that's called your future ideal self. It doesn't matter what it is, because what matters is what the research calls future orientation. You get a young person thinking about where they can be in the future, the prefrontal cortex turns on. It exerts enough, what Michael Schwartz calls mental force, to control impulses. Isn't that mind-blowing? The prefrontal cortex has enough force to bring you under control if, as Joseph Pierce puts it, if it's properly activated and turned on. And most don't get it turned on. He turned us on, man, because he said, well, you guys come up with a play, we'll put on a play. I looked to my buddies, I'm like, you think he's serious? He said, put on a play, play. All right, I could go on this for hours, but we're going to serve short, right? My other gift was I could write. I wrote a play. I called ourselves the New World Players. Isn't that a cool name? New World Players, right? Play lasted about 15 minutes. Cool play. It was kind of a ridiculous play, right? Because we started off fighting each other, and then we all fainted on the stage. And then we woke up in the New world, thank you. See, it takes college students to figure this stuff out. The rest of you guys sitting there going, what's nigga? Thank you, guys. See why I like digging y'all? Love it. Right. We wake up in the world and we love each other, we support each other, we do cool stuff. It's cool play. You know what he did? He found us a place to rehearse at a church. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. Fell into my old behaviors. The church kicked us out. He called me up. No, he found me because I was hiding. He found me at my aunt's daycare, working. It's incredible work. Fighting for who? Hey, I'm gonna find you a new place. Don't do it again. I'm gonna make you back. You gotta clean up and you gotta write a little apology. Write an apology. Went back, cleaned it up. Right? Look, got a new place. Finish the play. In my little town, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, we performed that play 8 times all summer. We went on summer tour. Life-changing. Research now calls it cognitive restructuring. My brain changed, man. I started believing that I could be somebody. Guess how it ended? This was the killer. And I'm sure Mike did it. Got a phone call. Hi, this is so-and-so from the local to whatever news station. We'd like to have you come interview with us and put you on television. Can you believe that, Rita? Got my little call up the truth. New world players, go on TV. It took us out. And it's not going to happen for every youth, but I'm just saying, when you get a community of resources aligned with your agency, and you get probation officers who get you to think about who they can become, like the possibilities are endless while holding them accountable. And we did do our little performance. I remember I was sitting at home with my dad one Saturday. I said, Dad, got to change the channel. He said, why? Because I'm on TV. Please. No, Dad, seriously, I'm on TV. He said, son, you please, Dad, can we just flip it? Just flip it. Oh, that sounds weird to you guys, because you guys click. Yeah, you guys click, right? Well, we flipped, okay, we did this. She's like, oh, okay. Oh my God, I'm old, man. I'm totally old, right? I said, Dad, can I just flip it? He said, go ahead. So I got it. We have clickers back then up the office. I ran up and I flipped it over to channel 2, remember? Channel 2. And it was on, sure enough. And I remember my dad looked at me like, wow, son, that's awesome. Amazing day. Just make a simple experience was profound. I changed. And I have to say that experience at age 16 set me on a trajectory developmentally. Right? That's here. What could I not do now, right? And it happened out of getting into trouble. What a way for it to come about, right? Now, let's get inside of this and then talk about the symptoms, 2 possibilities for research. Let's move beyond, do I be an enforcer or a social worker? Let's move beyond, do I be hard or soft? Actually, what's at play here, based on the desistance research, is what's called 2 kinds of desistance. The definition for desistance is, you're gonna love this, the process of becoming a non-offender. Recidivism is just, I want to get you stop the behavior. Desistance is, as John said, I become a human being for whom offending doesn't even apply anymore. I didn't have to worry about trying to stay out of trouble after this. I was on the path to desistance of becoming a person who, you don't go do stuff like that if this is the kind of person I'm becoming, right? Well, the first piece that does take risk assessments, right? And I'm going to say to you, absolutely, sometimes enforcement. I was with you in YJ 300 class, and I said, we need detention centers. Some youth are so far out there, right, that they're not safe running around town. That for us to get them to figure out who they can become, we need to do all that work in a secure setting. Absolutely. So that first piece is, we got to settle you down enough. We've got to address those risk factors. Here's a great example. Judges put in these wonderful conditions. And for one youth, the condition is, don't hang out with antisocial peers anymore. Fantastic. Probation officer in enforcer role goes out to make sure the kid is not hanging out with antisocial peers. That's a good thing. I have no problem with that. That level of surveillance, absolutely. We got to get you stabilized, because if you hang out with these bad kids, you're going to start doing bad things. But the question becomes, what do we do with that time that we get that lull in the offending? fact, the definition for primary desistance is a disruption in the offending career, a slowdown period, a lull. Beautiful. We got tons of research that says our approaches around using assessment instruments, pinpointing certain factors, working with them, is being extremely successful at that, which means it positions us perfectly for going to the second level and doing what the research calls secondary desistance. And guess how that's defined? Love this. You have moved beyond non-offending behavior. In other words, you move beyond trying not to offend. Ever thought about that? It's not that I'm trying not to offend, it's I move beyond it and I have assumed a new role and a whole changed identity. That is called secondary desistance. I am now a different person. I don't have to wake up in the morning and not worry about not offending. That's you and I. We don't have to make sure we don't punch somebody in the face today. At least I hope not. We're not fighting impulses. I gotta stay away from these friends, I'm gonna get in trouble. Self-control. Not there. Doesn't even align with who we are. Doesn't touch us, man. Because our identities are such that we don't worry about it. Guess what? That's possible to create. And we don't have the time to get inside of all the ins and outs of that, but that's possible to create. And so here is the opportunity for the center, Innovation Center for Youth Justice. I'm gonna start with two questions that you might want to consider. What is it about risk assessments that can be used to tell us something about a child's development, not just their risk level to reoffend? What is revealed to us in these things they've gone through? As Sonia Gosha at the University of Washington, University of California, Irvine puts it in her mind-blowing dissertation, Lost Causes, she says, don't forget that those risk factors are lived experiences. They're not just data points on a screen. Those are things that happen to a human being. And what do those things mean for development? The second question is there any correlation, if any, between high-risk youth and delayed or disrupted development? If we can make those connections, maybe we can close this gap between either the enforcer or I'm the social worker, sort of blend it all together. So here are three areas of possible research for the center to consider. The first is, how about a little bit of research on secondary desistance? Just taking a look at that. How do we get there? How do we help our probation departments and staff pursue not only primary desistance, but secondary desistance and communicating that to them effectively? I just did that in Washoe County, Nevada last week, and it was pretty mind-blowing to them. They absolutely loved it. And they want to start moving down that path, thinking about that. Second area of research goes with secondary desistance, which is, you may not have heard of this, but secondary sanctions. The center might want to consider secondary sanctions. What are those? Those are the things that happen to you because of being involved in the youth justice system. You can't join this, you can't get this kind of job, you can't show up here, you're not allowed to do this, you're going to be more closely surveilled. How badly does that block moving forward? And in fact, it involves the third kind of desistance called tertiary desistance, which is the part they can't do by themselves. Tertiary desistance is, I belong to people and I interact with people who are willing to acknowledge that I've changed. Some of you, if they get on the path, they've got a pretty heavy-duty record, will they still have a chance? You all saw a lot of youth like that. What if one of them looked at you one day and said, yeah, I want to be an architect one day and I want to go out, but I can't get an architect internship or architectural mentor because I've been arrested 3 times. That's a secondary sanction. You can't even pursue who you want to become because these secondary sanctions. Can that be studied, looked at, and folks help to kind of figure that one out? And the third one, which we had a great conversation in Washoe County last week, it's fantastic, which is positive indicators of growth and success going forward. What are some positive outcomes? Not just whether or not they offended or not, but there's some positive outcomes that we can begin tracking and monitoring that says we're on the path. They're on their way to becoming this person they hope to become. So those are 3 things I offer to you as things you could be thinking about. And I'll wrap it up with what some folks are doing in Minneapolis. Again, as I said, they did the probation review work there and brought me in, had some great meetings, and they got going with some stuff. And now it's a year and a half later. Jody joins me in our monthly tactical review sessions to sort of check progress. So let me give you some hope that this can be done, and if the center goes down this path, that there will be some hungry jurisdictions wanting it. Just a few highlights. When a young person enters their system, the folks at the front end of the system begin to ask themselves the question, does the way we interview youth, does it contribute to secondary offending? Or does it tend to label them and make them feel more like an offender? And they concluded the latter, and they changed their whole set of interview questions. Guess what else they did with a little bit of experimentation? I found a little tool for them online, and they said, we like this, who can you be in the future? This is the investigations unit. Heavy duty probation officers, somebody even said the investigations people up front. Heavy duty probation officers whose job is just to get the fact pattern, find out what they did, hand that off, so they can go to the arraignment. We know what they did and know how bad it was. Guess what they have added to their investigation? A tool called My Future Self. And young people actually sit down and fill it out, and the young people are absolutely loving it. What do you want to know in the future? What are your strengths? What will get you there? What do you need to change about yourself in order to get there? And that becomes a part of the investigation report. And they created a new section of the investigation report called the Youth Ideal Self, because their thing is we want that to follow the youth from initial contact in the system all the way through to probation. And every time a youth gets handed to a new probation officer, the first question that the new probation officer asks is, so I heard you want to have your own restaurant one day. Well, my favorite there, she's a young lady, she's 15 years old. She wants to work in NASCAR pit crew. That's her dream. And so when that case passes on, you're the future NASCAR pit crew worker. Come on in the office here, let's have a conversation. Isn't it a different experience? Second thing that they do now is when they have this conversation, find out who the young person wants to be in the future, they've changed the case plans. Every case plan in Hennepin County has as its long-term goal, anybody want to guess? My future self. In the case plan. It's not dangling out here in the distance as something that we had a little chat about. It's the center of the case plan, and then they take the risk factors, the criminogenic needs, and they're identified not as risk factors and criminogenic needs to say to you, these are the barriers you need to overcome in order to become a pit crew worker one day. Now the case plan is my game plan for becoming who I want to become in the future. Then they decided, well, if we're doing this and they're going to be on probation, we got to get our agencies we contract with on board. So those folks went in there and they had me train all of their contract providers, by the way. Those are great trainings on this stuff, right? Change the contract language for them and change the RFPs so that they would pick up the ball and make sure they work with you in a way that contributed to secondary desistance. But they still weren't done. Had me meet with the judges. Good to see you, Judge. Glad you're here. I'm going to be with Sotelo, correct? Yes. I'm going to be with Judge Sotelo in about 2.5 weeks, I think it is. Yes, he graciously invited me to join him in his awesome symposium that he does. So you're getting a little snippet of what I'm going to be doing. My topic is hope and desistance, because he wanted me to address hope. But they got the judiciary involved, trained him once, no pushback, asked me to come back, train him again, no pushback. Then they said, we want something to help us out. And so we now have a bench card, Judge. And I can't wait. Next week when I get back, I think it's Thursday, we're having our sort of adoption of the bench card that is about supporting secondary desistance from the bench. We have judges in Hennepin County calling up administrators in the juvenile probation department saying how excited they are that these youth are in the courtroom actually talking now. Oh my gosh, she just wouldn't shut up in the courtroom. We were talking about her wanting to have this restaurant and how they're going to get there. And the probation officer took all my conditions and said, these are the conditions you need to meet in order to get there. This thing is really cool. And then one judge in a meeting with him, he says, Jonathan, I just want to thank you for doing this because you know what? This is great work. Sometimes I forget that these young people have hopes and dreams and passions. And it would be off the center that look at those kinds of pieces and say, what impact does a bench card like that have on judicial practice. How do court hearings change as a result of this? And the last and final piece that they did is they reached out to all institutions. Guess which one? Police department, not the prosecutors. I think I heard that over there. I wanted to go there. They said, no, police officers. Okay. I said, that's a tough group too, right? Went to the police officers. They asked for a proposal, shared it with RFK, and Jody gave me a great thumbs up. Thank you, Jody, for that. Gave me a great thumbs up. Then I knew I was good, because I'm like, is this going to work for law enforcement or not, right? So yeah, it worked for them. Not only did they come back and say, we like this, it is how police officers can contribute to secondary desistance. Not only did they say they like it, my email last night, 2 nights ago, the sheriff's office, that's the whole county, this is new news. The sheriff's office said, not only do we like this, we want you to give us some more information so we can submit this to some board, because we're going to make this a part of our mandatory continued education. Every sheriff's deputy in the county will be exposed to what you're hearing from me today. How to work with you, how to understand how trauma drives that behavior, how to understand that when you talk to them about who they can become rather than what they did, you might have more success with them. So they are on the verge of massive systems alignment. Police department as gatekeepers, probation department and their work with them, the courts, and community-based organizations, all singing off the same sheet of music around secondary desistance. What comes to fruition, it'd be nice for the center to think about tracking that, taking a look at that and seeing how that works. So I'm glad you're here. If nothing else, the spotlight you put on places like that, the fact that you can encourage this kind of thing, the fact that you're coming to this development perspective with your research, the fact you're training future folks out there to understand this is exciting to us in the field. So I thank you, James Madison University, for taking this on. John, thank you for all of the behind the scenes paid work. You know the respect and the admiration I have for you. You knocked it out of the park with this one. And thank you for the opportunity for me to be here to share this with them. Congratulations on the center.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today and being witness to the passion and synergy of values and ambition and future vision of various initiatives that we're going to take on. So please be on the lookout for future ICYJ events, and we're going to do this together. So thank you very much. No official Q&A in this room, so I invite you to step outside, get some food, and talk to each other. Talk to our wonderful interns, talk to John and his team, to Jonathan. So we are not done yet. Let's have a conversation outside. Thank you very much.